Good afternoon. September is Baby Safety Month. Today we are here to discuss safe infant sleep practices with Deb Campagna, one of our maternity experts. Hello, how are you, Deb?
Great.
What kind of information can you give us today for new parents who might be a little nervous with their newborn at home?
Well, we teach a lot of classes here at St. Peter's, and one of the very popular ones is the Crib Notes class, where new families come in to try and get their anxiety under control when dealing with new babies. One of the first things I say to them, when we have a new baby, it creates a lot of anxiety for us. And I always say, you know, there's like a hot pink line drawn right down the middle of your life. And we speak differently, we have different friends. We will say, oh, that was before I had the baby, that was after I had the baby. So it makes a tremendous change in the way we live day to day. So one of the things we have to remember is we need to keep these babies safe. Sometimes parents come in and have these ideas on how they're going to care for their baby, especially with sleep, and they've gotten that information possibly from family members, grandparents who are not aware of the newest practices for safe sleep. So what my classes always revolve around keeping the sudden, it's no longer called sudden infant death syndrome, it's now called sudden unexpected infant death, and we want to keep those numbers trending in the downward direction, and safe sleep is number one. So we always talk about the ABCs, and one is these babies must sleep alone. They need their own place to sleep, as do new parents need their own place to sleep. One of the worst places we can put a baby is in between two sleep-deprived adults. You just look at your beds. They are thick, they have memory foam, they have pillow top mattresses, 50 pillows and lots of blankets, and setting your baby down in between two of you, you could inadvertently really cause harm. Plus they can scoot down between the bed frame and the mattress and or even fall. So we want to remember that babies need to sleep by themselves. There's lots of ways you can do that, and the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests that you have the baby in the room with you. They say 12 months, which kind of scares some new parents, but then they kind of backtrack a little bit and say at least 6 months. I always say to the parents, you're the experts. You know when it's time to move your baby into their own room. But initially it is easier for feedings having that baby close to you. Lots of ways we can do it. If your room is big enough, you can put the crib right into the room where you sleep. You can use a bassinet. They're used for such a short period of time, and I'm always harping on parents, don't spend a lot of money, but a bassinet next to the crib works. A pack and place, worth their weight in gold. You know, you can put that next to them. They also have something called co-sleepers, where there's a foot that fits underneath the mattress, and it's an extension of the parent's bed, and it still gives the baby its own area, but being in close proximity for feedings, which is lovely. So they have to sleep alone. Very important. The second is they need to be on their back. And when I start classes, I'll say to them, something that has got to be non-negotiable with your parents especially, are these babies must sleep on their back. When we instituted that back to basics a long time ago, the sudden infant death syndrome rate back then plummeted. So we need to keep doing that, but it does require a lot of education, especially on the generation that brought them up, because we were told to put babies on their bellies, and they slept deeper, they slept longer, but that's where the sudden unexplained infant death occurs, in that deep sleep. Babies aren't meant to sleep for hours and hours. Their stomach is as big as a walnut. So we need to make sure that they stay on their back and they move around. They don't have to be positioned down so that they can't move. They still need to move around a lot. They'll rub the hair off the back of their head. They don't put a kindergarten like that. It will grow back, but we do need to educate everyone about that. And I teach a grandparenting class, and that's the one thing that they have a big issue with, because they instantly think that they did something wrong. We did as we were told back then, just as we hope people will help do that the same now. But when you look at the research, it's so compelling. So I always return to that when I talk to grandparents. So they do need to stay on their back, but here's the problem. They also need tummy time. So if we put them on their back and forget, because when we first started this whole back to basics initiative, we kind of forgot to say, oh, don't forget the tummy time. So we had a bunch of late crawlers. They were kind of doing this scooting thing. So now we're very careful about telling people a couple times a day we put the babies on their bellies when they're wide awake. Okay, not when they're in that early aroused period or just before they go down. When they're wide awake, you put them on their bellies so that their arms and legs get strong enough so that they can crawl. So we want to make sure that we are providing the tummy time for them. The C of the ABCs is that these babies must sleep in their crib, Again, that's alone. We want to keep them in their crib. Then we look at crib safety. We spend a lot of time in class talking about crib safety. And again, things have changed over the years. No more bumper pads. That's another big thing. I cannot tell you how many arguments I've had with those baby stores in this Capital District. I'm not a popular shopper there, I can tell you. But bumper pads are dangerous. They are. Just look at the literature. So no bumper pads, no breathable bumper pads, no blankets, no pillows, no stuffed animals, nothing in the crib but the baby. That is the safest place for this baby to sleep. You have to be careful that you're in a safe crib too. Hand-me-down cribs sometimes are not the safest place for these babies. You have to make sure that the slats are the appropriate width and that the mattress fits the crib. Many families have showed me their mattresses, sent me videos, and it moves back and forth. That's not safe. This baby is going to be in the crib for 2 years. They need to be in a safe environment. So my suggestion is that they try to put that crib mattress in the crib they've chosen before they leave the store. Then they don't have to worry about having to take it back. If you can move that crib, that mattress side to side, think about how much of a baby's arm or leg could fit down between there. So it is very dangerous. So you want to make sure that the mattress fits. The side rails no longer go up and down. When I had my children, all the cribs were made so the side rails went up and down, and we found that there were horrible accidents as a result of the mechanisms breaking and the babies kind of getting in between the side rail and the crib. So enough of that happened that they've stopped making them. So that's compelling as well. So all the cribs that are out now, the side rails are stabilized, which makes it a little bit difficult to get the baby in and out as you start to push the mattress down, but that's okay. We can deal with that as long as we have a safe, healthy baby. And then we worry about, we're putting this baby in here, the winter months are coming. How do I keep these babies safe and warm? Now, first thing we have to know, how do you know if a baby's cold? Babies don't have the ability really to shiver, and they'll cry, but we won't know why they're crying. So you want to feel their fingers, which everybody who knows me knows that I hate those mittens that you put on our babies. Really, it's almost pathological. So no mittens on our babies. That it impedes breastfeeding, and this is the one single thing that they are familiar with. So we want to give them their hands back, maybe just little baby emery boards to scrape off their nails so they're not sharp, but give them back their hands. Not only will they soothe better, but then you have an indicator of whether or not they're cold. You'll feel their hands, and then take the back of your hand and feel their little nose. The next time you're really cold, I want you to just take your hand, feel your nose. It's like a popsicle. So those two things together would tell you that the baby needs one more layer. Our rule of thumb is that whatever you're wearing around the house, the baby needs one more layer. So if you're in an apartment where you have no control of your heat and you're running around in just shorts and a t-shirt, the baby only needs a long sleeve cotton sleeper. That's all they need. But if you're keeping your house at 62 at night, the baby's going to need something warmer. And they have these blanket sleepers that are thick fleece for the winter and thin muslin for the summer. They have something around the neck so they can't get up around the baby, and they work beautifully. One thing we do have to be careful, and this is pretty new information, is no hats on the baby while they're inside. St. Peter's started that a few months ago, where at 24 hours of age, we take all the hats off our babies and we do not put them back on. We found that they do slip down over their face, and it's dangerous. And these are pretty tight hats that we have at St. Peter's. So the hats that you have at home are loose, so no hats while the baby is inside. When they go outside, absolutely, but once they come back in, we want to take those hats off, because hats would really keep them warm, but we can't do that. So we will keep our babies toasty warm. We want to keep the crib away away from any windows, any dangling cords, any direct vents that will blow directly on the babies, and we want to keep them as safe as possible. We also have to be very careful about where these babies are sleeping as far as the crib goes, and the car seat is what I want to talk about. Frequently, these babies will fall sound asleep in the car, and they love the sound of the car. Parents many times have been forced to take a baby in the middle of the night and put them out in the car and take a ride to put them to sleep, which we've all probably lived through that at least once. When you bring the baby back into the house and they're sound asleep, that is no longer the safest place for our baby to sleep, in the car seat. Babies have giant heads, no necks, okay? It's like a bowling ball with a pencil. And when you take them out of that car seat where they are secured at 45 degrees and strapped in, their head is back and it's perfect. But when you bring them in the house in that car seat, it can roll forward and their big head can come forward and it can block the blood flow to the brain. So we really would prefer you not to leave the baby in the car seat while they sleep in the house. That doesn't mean they can't sleep while you have them in the car driving, but please be careful about that. Swings also, you have to be very careful about the angle of their head and how well they're sleeping. I know it's very it's tense having a new baby. It is, and I want to keep their anxiety level at bay. It's really hard, but if they can stay calm, then we have a nice calm baby. Nervous parents make nervous babies. Nervous babies make gassy guts, and gassy guts make sleepless nights. So if we can help make these parents peaceful, peaceful parents make peaceful babies. And that's my hope for all of you people out there, is that we have peaceful babies that are safe and calm parents. Thanks for listening to me.